Now at 5 and streaming on crossroadstoday.com, a mix-up with court records and a cyber attack has led to a surprising twist in the case of Fernando Acosta Jr., who's now set to face trial for the 2021 murder of Amanda Johnson. Plus, authorities arrest 2 Texas men accused of trafficking 4 victims, including 1 juvenile in Ohio. And the Texas Senate passes 2 controversial bills that bring religion into public schools, sparking debate over moral values versus religious freedom.
Well, you may have noticed that the winds turned around. They became out of the northwest about 10 o'clock this morning. And so now our humidity has dropped off the table. We're down into the 20% range. And of course, that is high fire danger. So we continue with the dry winds, and we'll talk more about the temperatures coming up in just a moment.
Plus, ceasefire talks are underway to help stop the fighting between Russia and Ukraine. More on what the White House is saying on the progress coming up. You're watching 25 News Now at 5. Good afternoon and thanks for being with us. I'm Shawna Currie. Well, it's an alert day because of today's wind, so let's go straight over to Mac Perez for a first look at our forecast. And Mac, I do have to say, aside from the wind outside, it was absolutely beautiful today.
Exactly. What I call it beautiful disasters, because you might have noticed the frontal system came through about 7 o'clock in the morning. A cloud deck rolled through. We had maybe 10 drops that fell in our area, but that is all gone. Now the winds are coming out of the north. It's all on the backside of this monstrous storm that's causing all kinds of problems in the Midwest. Right now we've got 22-mile-an-hour winds going this way, and look at our humidities. This one's just unbelievable for us. 10%, 8% for our area. That is ridiculously low. Yesterday, we were in the 80% range. Well, a very dry air is, of course, a very good recipe for possible fires. So we need to continue watching out very carefully. The red flag warning is up for today and likely will be up for tomorrow as well. We'll talk more about that and what to expect into the weekend coming up in just a moment. Back to you.
And because of these conditions, Calhoun County is now under a burn ban. And due to the ban in place and limited holding space, the Olivia Hatterius Park brush pile will be temporarily closed until further notice. Absolutely no dumping at this time, and no outdoor burning is allowed until county commissioners rescind the ban. Evacuation orders have been lifted in Borger, Texas, after a dangerous wildfire broke out there last night. The fire spread fast as strong winds pushed the flames forward. Officials issued evacuation orders, but those have since been lifted. The Double S fire also shut down some roads in the area. One resident said she barely had time to get herself and her grandmother out as the fire closed in. Nearly 4 years after a Victoria mother of 2 was reported missing, then found in her burned SUV, the case against her accused killer is moving to trial. 25 News Now reporter Ray Mosley is at the Matagorda County Courthouse where the latest hearing in the case was held.
Fernando Acosta Jr. was set to have a pretrial hearing today at the Matagorda County Courthouse at 9 a.m. But apparently both sides held that hearing late last month, and the case is now set to go to trial. Online court records show that the hearing was set for today, but the county website is still under construction after a cyber attack several weeks ago, so the court date was not updated. The district attorney says the computer hack did not affect the Fernando Acosta Jr. case. Acosta is accused of killing Amanda Johnson. On April 18th, 2021, her remains were found in a burned-out SUV in Matagorda County. This murder trial was reset several times, and now, almost 4 years later, Acosta will have his day in court Monday, April 7th. Amanda Johnson was a single mother of 2. She worked at a health club and previously worked as an elementary teacher at Victoria ISD. She was just 38 years old. In Matagorda County, Ray Mosley, KAVU-TV, 25 News Now.
A U.S. Marshals task force tracked down a fugitive in Victoria, leading to a chaotic series of arrests. Officers were watching a home on Aladar Street when they spotted 5 people leaving in a black car. They followed the car to Surfing Crab restaurant, where the suspects went inside. Inside the restaurant, officers arrested Joel Tambriz, who was wanted in Arlington, Texas, for a fatal hit and run. He tried to run from a freezer, but was caught after being tased and bitten by a canine. 3 others were also arrested, including one man who fled in the car but was later stopped at Walmart. Charges range from evading arrest to assaulting an officer. At least 3 of the suspects are from Guatemala and in the country illegally. 4 human trafficking victims, including a juvenile, are safe tonight after the Central Ohio Human Trafficking Task Force arrested 2 men from Texas. It all started with a tip from the Texas Department of Public Safety. Reporter Colin Dorsey has the details.
And just saw police officers speaking to somebody inside the house who was named Mr. Hill. And then they said finally his first name, Larry.
It's a shock to the people living in this North Clintonville neighborhood. How could this happen here?
I said, thank you, Jesus. You got him. Because you don't do that to kids.
Authorities arrested this man, Larry Hill of Houston, Texas. According to Attorney General Dave Yost's office, Hill and another Texas man, Tamaria Granderson, traveled from Texas with 4 victims, including a juvenile.
Bond is going to be $1 million cash surety.
Both men appeared in court this morning and will be extradited back to Texas to face charges. In Clintonville, everyone I spoke to says Hill was arrested here, a home that's an Airbnb. I went to work to see if that was the case. A quick look of the company's website, and there it is. I reached out to the owner of the home, who doesn't live here right now, and got this response. He indicates Hill and the other man were at the property for less than a day before their arrests, and they never had any interaction with them.
It should be a wake-up call for everybody.
Earlier this month, 10 TV talked with Attorney General Dave Yost about his office's efforts working with local law enforcement to put an end to human trafficking in Ohio.
We've doubled the number of task forces in this state working on this issue. We're not giving up, we're not going away, but we intend to make them go away.
For those living in this neighborhood, they say it's disrespectful of everyone involved, the victims and the couple who own the home. It's something they never would have known was happening.
You don't do that. You have no right to do that. And you need help.
The Texas Senate passes 2 bills pushing religion into public schools. One requires classrooms to display the 10 Commandments, while the other sets aside time for student prayer. Supporters say it promotes moral values, but critics argue it favors Christianity and threatens religious freedom. Republican lawmakers cite court rulings backing their case, while opponents, including faith leaders, warn it could divide communities. So this brings us to our viewer poll today. Do Senate Bills 10 and 11 promote religious freedom, or do they violate it? We want to hear from you. Visit crossroadstoday.com/vote to take part. And right now, 64% of voters feel that these bills promote religious freedom. 36% feel that it violates religious rights. Continue voting. We'll have the latest numbers on 25 News Now at 6. The White House says ceasefire talks between Russia and Ukraine are heading in the right direction after President Trump spoke this morning with Ukrainian President Zelensky. His call with Russian President Vladimir Putin happened yesterday. Trump failing to persuade Putin on a 30-day ceasefire agreement proposed by the U.S. ABC's Rena Roy has the latest.
Ceasefire talks are on the right track, according to President Trump, who has now spoken with both Russian President Vladimir Putin and Ukrainian President Volodymyr Zelensky. Trump saying his phone call this morning with Zelensky was, quote, very good. A Ukrainian official telling ABC News the call was, quote, very productive. It was their first conversation since that heated Oval Office meeting last month, where President Trump accused Zelensky of not being ready for peace. Today, the White House says the two primarily focused on Trump's phone call with Putin the day before.
President Trump fully briefed President Zelensky on his conversation with Putin and the key issues discussed. They agreed this could be the first step toward the full end of the war and ensuring security.
Ukraine had agreed to a full ceasefire for 30 days, but Putin is not sold on it, even after Putin and Trump spoke for more than 2.5 hours on Tuesday. The Russian leader did pledge to stop attacking Ukrainian energy infrastructure. Zelensky says he's now preparing a list of targets and facilities that would be off limits if an agreement is reached, saying Putin's words alone are not enough to secure an agreement. The White House also saying Trump spoke to Zelensky about the U.S. potentially owning and operating Ukraine's nuclear power plants.
American ownership of those plants would be the best protection for that infrastructure and support for Ukrainian energy infrastructure.
Just hours after Putin and Trump's conversation, Russia and Ukraine trading strikes. Dozens of patients evacuated from this Ukrainian hospital after it was attacked. In southwest Russia, a Ukrainian drone attack damaging this oil depot, according to regional authorities. U.S. Special Envoy Steve Witkoff says ceasefire negotiations will begin this weekend. He says he thinks they can get a full ceasefire within 2 weeks. Rena Roy, ABC News, New York.
Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Cuero Record. DeWitt County Commissioners approve a land purchase in Yorktown to be used for a new building for the Precinct 2 Justice of the Peace. Plus, the Cuero Lady Gobbler basketball team is honored by the Cuero City Council. You can read these stories and more at DeWittCountyToday.com. Well, Final Four frenzy is here, and the road to the NCAA championship is wilder than ever. Can you predict the upsets and nail the perfect bracket? If you think so, head to CrossroadsToday.com to make your picks and join the madness. And remember to subscribe to our YouTube channel, Crossroads Today. Hit the like button and click the notification bell to receive alerts. Stay with us. Straight ahead on 25 News Now at 5. A popular pantry staple is under recall and it might be sitting on your shelf. Plus, hidden dangers at home, how to protect curious kids from poisoning risks. You may want to take a close look inside your pantry. Nearly 200,000 cans of green beans are being recalled by the Food and Drug Administration. According to the FDA, the cans of Good and Gather cut green beans could potentially be contaminated with a foreign object. Nearly 24 states are affected by this recall, including California, Georgia, Kansas, New York, and Pennsylvania. More information is available on the FDA's website. Well, it is National Poison Prevention Week, a time to highlight potentially poisonous items in many homes that can be attractive yet dangerous for children. In today's Health Minute, Mandy Gaither talks to an emergency medicine doctor about the biggest dangers and how to keep children safe.
It can happen in an instant. Curious children find dangerous things and ingest something they shouldn't have.
I see children in the emergency department who have gotten into something potentially dangerous on a regular basis.
Dr. Manisha Agarwal with Children's Healthcare of Atlanta says there's a long list of potentially poisonous items in homes across the country. U.S. poison centers responded to 2.4 million cases in the latest data from 2023. That's an average of one new case every 15 seconds.
A lot of young kids in particular like to explore the world with their mouth.
To keep kids safe, Agarwal says to store and secure potentially poisonous items up and away from little hands. This includes cleaning products, button batteries, craft supplies, THC or Delta-8 gummies, liquid medicines, laundry pods, motor oil, and prescription medications.
We like to think about pill bottles being child-proof, but they aren't. They're actually child-resistant.
If you suspect your child has ingested something dangerous, first make sure they don't have any more more of it. If the child is breathing and has a pulse, call poison control. If possible, ask the child what they swallowed, how much, and find out the strength or dosage. If it's a cleaning product that was ingested, take the bottle with you to the hospital.
One thing parents should absolutely do is store the Poison Control Center number in their phone. That number, no matter where you are in the United States, is 1-800-222-1222.
For Health Minute, I'm Mandy Gaither.
Here are some of the top headlines you can read in the Port Lavaca Wave. Traffic at the Port of Port Lavaca Point Comfort increased in February, and Calhoun County Area Go Texan won Quilt Awards at the Houston Livestock Show. You can read these stories and more at portlavacawave.com.
We are looking at the red flag warnings that are still up for our area. The winds are now coming out of the northwest, and it's even drier than it was yesterday. So we'll talk about how long this might last coming up in just a few minutes. Stay tuned. Well, good afternoon, everybody. We're at 83 degrees right about now. Our high temperature got up. It's not in just yet, but we'll probably looking at it about 84 was our high temperature. 66 was our morning low. You may have noticed that the cloud deck sort of rolled through our area early this morning, right about there. It wasn't much of anything, but as the front passed through, all of a sudden that north wind kicked in and the humidity has just dropped. You can be out there and you can feel the absolute dry nature of the air. This is all desert air coming at us from the southwestern deserts and moving into our region. The front is way off the shore now, but it is part of a huge problem that is occurring in the Midwest right now. You see this? This is snow on the back of it, and in the front of it right here, almost rolling into Chicago right now, severe weather. We're talking big thunderstorms, severe thunderstorms, possible tornadoes as well, with this being a tornado watch that continues all the way down into the mid-Mississippi Valley. We are looking at our winds. As you can see, they're coming out of the northwest right now at 22 miles an hour. They should settle down a little bit tomorrow, and that's going to help. But look at these humidities. Normally we have 80–90% humidity around here. I mean, we're right close to the water, but right now they're running at 9%. Pardon me. It's so dusty I can't talk. 6% humidity in San Antonio right now, 6% in Del Rio, unusually low for Texas and certainly for us near the coast. Now temperatures will drop just a little bit with that north wind, down to 74 tomorrow, 10 degrees, but I doubt if you'll feel it. It'll be a nice day. The sun is good. Don't get me wrong. The low humidity is great, but the fact that we have been so dry for so long is not a good thing. We'll slowly get back up into the 80s as we head on into the weekend. The weekend is looking very good, except for the fact that we continue to be very dry. Now, the red flag warnings are up for today. Tomorrow, this may or may not be a red flag warning. Here's what happens. If the winds are over 25 miles an hour, it's a red flag warning. If they're below 25 miles an hour, it'll be a fire weather watch. either way, we all have to be very cautious and continue doing what you're doing to make sure that we don't get any fires started. So the winds will slowly turn from the north overnight, and then by tomorrow we'll start seeing Thursday, as by the end of Thursday the winds will come back up out of the south, as you can see right about there. In fact, Friday really is a very lovely day, and so is Saturday. If you have outdoor plans, I mean, it's a good time to be out there and enjoy the sunshine. Just be cautious with fire. That's the only drawback that we have. You see that northeast wind or northwest wind rolling in behind the front. There you see the monstrous circulation with this area of low pressure. This is a big storm, and let me tell you, tomorrow you'll be hearing about tornadoes from the Chicago area. I don't say that lightly, all the way down through Indiana and possibly into Illinois as well. This is going to be a rough night for them. This is very similar to what we had over the weekend, where it rolled kind of like from the southwest further south. This storm's a little bit higher to the north. Overnight lows will be actually cooler tonight, about 20 degrees. As a matter of fact, we'll get down to the 40s, believe it or not. We were in the 60s this morning. So tomorrow, a lovely day, 74, the high temperature, and that low humidity, of course, makes it very comfortable. The only thing is that one fly in the ointment there, making it very dry. So sunny skies all day, northerly winds continue 12 to 15 miles an hour. High temperatures about 10 degrees cooler than we were yesterday. Tonight down to 48 in Cuero, getting up to 73, but sunshine all day long unless you're driving out in the pasture and you've got a hot muffler on your truck. So be careful with that. So because of the high fire danger, we keep it as a red flag day for tomorrow. Then we'll slowly warm up as we get to the weekend. A glimmer, a 20% chance of a glimmer of a drop or two coming in Sunday night with that little frontal system. Otherwise, we stay in the 80s. That's your 7-day forecast, reminding everybody we do have a QR code. Love for you to scan that, put Crossroads Today on your phone. Shawna, back to you.
All right, Mac, I'm going to make a request now. Okay. Keep it in mind.
Yes.
Can we have this humidity in August?
That's going to be a tough one.
All right, I'll keep my fingers crossed. Still to come, the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates unchanged for the second time in a row. We'll have the details. U.S. stocks finished sharply higher today on news that the Federal Reserve decided not to adjust interest rates for the second meeting in a row. The Dow gained 383 points in trading, while the S&P 500 and NASDAQ both gained more than 1% of value. Oil is also up 29 cents to $67.19 per barrel. For the second time in a row, the Federal Reserve is keeping interest rates steady. Analysts say today's decision shows central bankers are waiting to see how the Trump administration's policy changes will play a factor on the U.S. economy. Those adjustments include heavy tariffs, mass deportations, and the downsizing of the federal workforce. Many economists have predicted there will be at least one rate cut before the end of the year. In January, the Fed said it expects to have 2 rate cuts in 2025. Well, late last year, it seemed like the Federal Reserve had pulled off the unlikely, tamping down the highest inflation in 4 decades without triggering a recession. Now there are new economic concerns. Karen Kafa explains the Fed's latest decision on interest rates.
The Federal Reserve staying cautious and holding interest rates steady amid growing economic uncertainty.
Labor market conditions are solid, and inflation has moved closer to our 2% longer run goal, though it remains somewhat elevated. In support of our goals, today the Federal Open Market Committee decided to leave our policy interest rate unchanged.
The Fed stopped cutting interest rates back in January as signs pointed to inflation's descent stalling out and overall growth slowing, a troublesome combination. Complicating matters now, President Donald Trump's economic agenda, including the slashing of the federal workforce, shaking what's been a stable labor market, and his overhaul of trade policy, rattling consumers, businesses, and markets.
Confidence is very fragile. You can see it in the consumer sentiment surveys. You can see it among business people. Investments they plan to make, they're all pulling back.
Among the administration's moves to ramp up pressure on America's biggest trading partners, a slate of tariffs, some already implemented and some looming on imported goods from key U.S. trade partners Canada, Mexico, and China. Economists warn the policies could push inflation higher and sink consumer spending, putting the economy at risk.
Recession is a loss of faith. We lose faith that we're going to be able to hold on to our job and businesses are going to be able to sell what they produce.
And force the Fed to course correct once again. In Washington, I'm Karen Kafa.
Purdue Pharma is asking a bankruptcy judge to approve its reorganization plan, which would dissolve the company and transfer its assets to a new public benefit company focused on the opioid crisis. This comes after a $7.4 billion settlement with the Sackler family to resolve lawsuits over OxyContin's role in the opioid epidemic. The Sacklers will have no involvement in the new company. Ben & Jerry's is accusing its parent company, Unilever, of breaching their merger agreement by firing its CEO without board approval. The move comes after the CEO made public comments on progressive issues, escalating an ongoing dispute since 2021. Ben & Jerry's lawyers say the 2000 merger agreement protects the brand's interests, preventing Unilever from removing its CEO unilaterally. This is the latest in a series of complaints about Unilever trying to silence the ice cream company on social media. Well, coming up next, a story you don't want to miss. Detroit police wrangle an unexpected escapee, and it's not your usual suspect.
Tonight, President Trump's call with Vladimir Putin, what this could mean for Ukraine, plus the splashdown off the Florida coast, the joyful return. World News Tonight with David Muir is America's most watched newscast.
Police in Detroit respond to an unusual call. They were called to help round up a miniature horse that escaped from a petting zoo. The caller first thought it was a deer, but as she got closer, she realized it was a pony with brown and white spots and a fluffy tail. With her help, police were able to track the miniature horse to a backyard using flashlights to spot it. Officers cornered the pony, got a harness on it, and they were able to walk him back home, which was just a mile away from the Ponies R Us petting zoo. So he didn't get too far. But the caller was happy to hear that the pony made it home safely. Officers even called it a bucket list moment. They said they had to get a photo of.
Absolutely.
So, yeah. I mean, luckily it was a nice, calm horse and wasn't bucking at anybody.
Exactly, and it was down to about the size we can handle.
Right.
It's a little bitty one. Those big ones are hard to control.
Yes.
Well, I hope you enjoy the low humidity tomorrow. It's going to be arid, dry out there. Feels like Arizona, with the humidity dropping down to less than 20%. We are looking at a red flag day for tomorrow, likely because of the gusty winds and the extremely low humidity. Let's just enjoy the sunshine, but don't worry about any kind of fire outdoors because it could be a problem. We have some nice weather coming up for the weekend as temperatures get back up into the mid-80s.
Yeah, definitely could feel the difference this morning once that front came through, how dry it got.
Like arid, dusty dry.
Yes. So, and like I said earlier, though, it's amazing how much of a difference the humidity makes between now and our normal summertime.
Totally. I mean, we're not used to this kind of stuff. Like I keep saying, it's exactly
enjoy it
it's
while
like
it's
Arizona here right now. That's what it feels like.
Yes. So, all right. Well, thanks for being with us. We'll see you back in 30 minutes right after World News Now with David Muir.